Here we go. Focus. Speed. I am speed.
We will never sleep, cause sleep is for the weak. That we will never rest, so we're all fucking dead.
No, sir, man. I don't like that crap. I'm a rocker, dude, through and through. Here's my favorite bands. AC/DC, Van Halen, not Van Hagar, Skinner, Def Leppard.
All right, we're on in 5 minutes.
We're headlining. We shouldn't be going on until at least 11.
It's the prom. It's over at 11.
Hey guys, what the heck is going on? My name is Sam Cox, and this is the IMG Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Today we have a pretty cool episode here for you. I sit down with Miss Ashleigh Thompson. Ashleigh is somebody that, as of lately, I've gotten the real pleasure to get to talk to and honestly get to kind of know personally. And I would like to think she's probably one of the coolest people I've ever met. By far, one of the coolest people we've had on this podcast so far. She's so happy and she's so positive, and I think that we need more people like her in this music industry in general. So Ashleigh is the tour manager for a guy that you might have heard. His name is Bart, one of the what I would like to call Texas staple acts that have been around for the last 10, 15 or plus years or so. It's always really cool to do these types of interviews, mainly because we've had a lot of tour managers here on the podcast here recently, and it's always cool to see different sides and perspectives of pretty much the same job title. It's always really cool to see how different bands and different camps work, even though under like an umbrella, a tour manager does, I would say on paper, the same thing for every single band, but it's always really cool to see how each band works differently. So we talk about a lot of different topics in this podcast. First and foremost, we talk about the behind the scenes of tour managing and Ashleigh's definition and her perspective on tour managing. And then we talk about merchandise for quite a while in this podcast. I actually, for one, learned a lot from Ashleigh just talking to her about merchandise. Before she was with Bart tour managing, she was actually on the road running merch with a lot of different artists, as you'll hear in the podcast. And she talks about things from design to quantities and qualities, and the money for re-upping and all this other kind of stuff. Pretty much how to run a pretty decently successful merchandise business. So that whole part of the podcast was really cool. And then we talk about some pet peeves that she has. In this podcast, I always like to talk to everybody about their pet peeves, because the person listening to it on the other side of this podcast, I think secretly we kind of want everybody to be like, oh wait, wow, that's me. I'm the person that they're talking about. So yeah, this was a great podcast. This is especially good for anybody that is wanting to work in the music industry, and you love music, but you're not really music savvy, but you think you could get behind the scenes with the business side of stuff. Ashleigh definitely has a lot of really, really good info and some tips for you. Also, if you are in a band and you're thinking, her job description and what she's describing is something that I could really use in my band while on the road or while not on the road or whatever, then I think to yourself like, hey, are we ready for a TM in our stage of our career? So she has a lot of really good knowledge in this. I'm really glad we did this. She is very smart, and it's really refreshing to hear a tour manager talk about all of the things that she's talking about that are outside of the aspect of actually quote unquote TMing, because she gets into, like I said again, merch. She gets very, very deep into that, and then we talk about production a little bit and stuff. So it's really refreshing to hear somebody talk about that, because me, just as a musician, like I'm not into production and stuff. There's a lot of days where I get a 1/4 inch mixed up with an XLR, but just to hear her talk about all of this stuff behind the scenes, she's like I said, a 10 out of 10 person, and we need more people like her in this industry for sure. So anyway, guys, here we go. It's funny because I feel like I don't know very many people that are strictly just like the business side of it, that don't play like at all. I know a lot of people that are like a TM or an agent or a manager, and they were a musician at one point, but then life happened, whatever that is, and they just kind of settled into a position to where they're like, well, this is the part of the music business that actually makes like stable money, so then they like transition their career into that. And then You don't really see very many people though that end up just doing the business side of it. So it's super interesting that you just were like, hey, let's get into this. So,
it's crazy. It's crazy how it happened. And I mean, I just fell in love with the scene. And I knew I have no musical talent. I can't sing. I can't play guitar. Like, I don't know any of that. I could talk to you all day about music, and I can tell you, like, oh man, that guitar riff was amazing, and oh, this was that, and all that stuff. But I can't play. But I want to be a part of it. I love music, and I love live music so much that I wanted to be a part of it so bad. And the business part just kind of made sense.
Yes. It's the only thing about it that makes sense sometimes.
Then I was on the road with Tristan for almost a year. I started up with him in September, and my last show with him was July 5th.
So did you work with Tristan before you worked with Holly? Or
yeah, well, so yes and no. When I first started working with Tristan, I was filling with other artists simultaneously. I filled in with Gio. I filled in with Holly a couple of times. I filled in with all these different people, just running merch. William Beckman, a lot of those people. And my goal was just to learn as much as I could from anyone that I could learn from. I wanted to learn how every different camp worked. I wanted to learn how everything worked. I wanted to see every show from a working standpoint that I could, so I could get all the information and become better like TM, because that was my goal. My goal was to be a tour manager at the time, just getting my foot in the door doing merch. But I absolutely love running merch. I love sitting there and meeting fans and talking to them and selling merch to them. I mean, I work at CH Lone Star when I'm not on the road, so I'm one of the fulfillment managers out there. So badass. I print, do all of their merch. We do all of merch for hundreds of artists.
So whenever you were running merch, take me into the process of that. So you were pretty much just running the merches at the show, and then that's it? Or were you doing the inventory? Were you re-upping on stuff? Were you making sure that X amount was set back for the re-upping, and then what could go into the artist's pocket? Like, what all were you doing whenever you were like running merch for Tristan?
When I was running merch for Tristan, I was in charge of helping come up with new designs, and we would print through CH. So I'd work with CH and get all of our stuff printed and get quotes and make sure that our inventory stayed up. I was in charge of obviously making sure that everything was ready to go for shows and making sure we had all of our best sellers and all that stuff. I didn't really get to dip my toes in too much of like the profits of merch too much when I was working with Tristan, but definitely know how all that works now for sure. So
whenever people are selling merch, and which is funny, I had the same conversation with Holly whenever she was on the podcast, but do you have any advice for artists that are selling merch? Anything, just I know, super broad question, but like whenever it comes down to the money side of it, or the designs or anything, is there like any specific bits and pieces of advice that you would have for like an artist that either doesn't have a merch game or they could like up their merch game?
When you're first starting out with merch, the biggest advice that I would ever give someone is making sure that the money you put into merch stays into merch until you are extremely, extremely profitable. Because the first night you're going to walk home with $500 in your pocket, but you're going to need $1,000, $2,000 to re-up for your next order. And where is that money going to come from? Right. Because so I think that's a really big thing for a lot, like, especially for people who are just starting out with merch, is making sure that that first chunk of money that you set aside for merch, that stays in merch at all times. And I know it's hard with logistics, because I mean, man, sometimes you're walking home from gigs with $50, $100. You're not walking home with a lot, right? And you got to pay gas, and you got to pay your band, and you got to pay this person and that person.
Very hard not to dip into that merch fund.
It's very, very hard. But if you can keep that initial amount that you kept in, like you put into merch, you keep it there every single time, you'll be able to continue to keep your merch game up. And then when you start making more profit, you can look into how to move from that. And then with designs, I don't know. Sometimes the design that you hate and you think that's terrible is the design that your fans are going to eat up and they're going to love. And sometimes you're just going to have to do it, and it's going to have to sell because it's going to make us money, right?
Yeah. They I watch this one guy on YouTube all the time, and he's a YouTuber podcast guy, and he's talking about how he used to be in charge of design for Hollister, and he said, man, I would come to the company with these awesome ideas, just like for all these crazy cool shirts. He said, but 9 times out of 10, the shirt that would sell more than anything is just a plain one color with the little Hollister bird. And he's like, you can't come up with a new idea. And he's like, it just drained my creative brain because I hear a lot of artists say that because they're like, I hate this shirt, but like it's so simple and people like it, And so, yeah, we have 1 or 2 shirts like that where I'm like, man, I would really like to discontinue this if it didn't sell so well. And sometimes they're like unisex shirts, so it's just like you can't get rid of it. It sells so well for both, genders, So, what is the number of shirts that somebody should have at a merch table? Because I feel like if you don't have enough, then you don't have enough diversity. If you have too many, then people are there at the merch table for like an hour trying to pick out a fucking shirt, and you're like, bro, I just need you to get a shirt. And they're like, I mean, you have like, I don't know, 20 shirts and I can't pick one, and then, so what's like a good number that you think of shirts?
I think if you're just starting out with between 3 to 4 different designs, I think that's perfect amount, like a perfect amount. You could do one that's more towards females. You could do one that's more toward like manly or more towards men. And then you can do 2 unisex and just kind of run it from there. And then you can kind of play with that and see, okay, well, my fan base likes this kind of style more. And then you can go and design more off of that or go from there.
What are some good unisex colors? Because we have like a cream colored shirt that we do. And then we have like a black and white one. And those are like our 2 unisex. But what's like a good unisex color or colors that you've seen sell like a lot?
Athletic grays are selling a lot right now. Those are super popular.
Green or gray?
Yeah, like a light gray. You can do I don't know. I've seen a lot of people selling heather mustard, that like mustardy yellow color. That color is in right now. I know.
Yeah, I'm like,
I can wear it. It's not a color for me, but people love that. You could do like navies. Those colors sell really well for both. And then I don't ever think it's necessarily bad to throw in one fun color, like a maroon color or a sage color or like a light blue or a teal or like a tie-dye color. You could always throw in a shirt like that and make it fun because you are going to have the clients or the customers or the fans that are all going to buy those shirts as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that if you have, so personally, I think that the one that sells the most for us is like I said, this kind of cream color. And when you think it's going to be like a girl shirt, but then like all the guys buy it. And I'm just like, well, shit, now where's our girl shirt? So it kind of ended up biting us. But okay, so get me into where you ended up working with Bart. And this dude's been a staple in the Texas music scene for ever. For as long as I've been listening to this genre. So how did you get the job with him, and how long have you been at it? And so
I started working with Bart in December. He had reached out to me around that time and asked if I'd be interested in just coming on for a weekend run. It was New Year's weekend to TM for him. And then kind of after that, it was, hey, you want to come back again? Do you want to come back for the next weekend? And we kind of just decided that it was a really good fit. I ended up getting the job. We do all of Bart's merch here at CH. So Jordan, she works at CH. She's one of our quoters. She lives in Colorado now, but she knew that I wanted to be a TM as well. And Bart was looking for someone to bring on the road. So she kind of put the bug in his ear with that. And then I had met him and we kind of hit it off and made a good relationship. And from there kind of had that first weekend of runs and it went really well. So
What venues did you guys play at whenever you first got on the road with him?
My first show with Bart ever was at Granbury Live.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So we just had a yeah.
So were you just like, wow, this is what it's like every night in these theaters?
My first 2 runs where it was just like, hey, do you want to come and try this out? And then after that weekend, it was hey, do you want to like actually do this kind of thing? And I mean, I love that camp. That crew's amazing. They're so easy to work with. It's a great. I learned, like I said, they teach me everything. I've learned so much. I got to run monitors for them a couple weeks ago, and that was really fun. That was my first time doing that all by myself. Yeah, that was super fun. I like doing that for sure.
So they're on ears? In-ears?
Yes, we were on ears.
Yeah, that was a question that I was writing down as we were talking. I was just like, I wonder how in depth, because dude, some people throw their freaking tour managers like to the wolves, man. Like it's like they literally do everything from, like itineraries to driving the van to loading in, setting up merch, monitors, putting in orders for food. Like, does that all fall under your category of like?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I can drive the van and trailer. Normally, I can, I'm learning how to run ears actively. I run merch. I completely manage Bart's merch now. So I kind of do all the ordering and all that kind of stuff too now. I do all of it. I advance all the shows. I do the settlements, all the things.
So let's talk about advancing for a second. And so, like I was saying a few minutes ago, we had on another tour manager. His name's Kyle, and he's Bree's tour manager. We had him on, I think we recorded it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we just posted it. And I like these types of interviews where we kind of like do the same job, but different people, because, you kind of show like the differences between like how different camps work and that kind of stuff. But so explain Ashleigh's definition of advancing. What would you call advancing for the people that don't know that term?
I just make contact with the event that we are going to play. Whether that's I try to be a week in advance at all times with all venues. So I'll reach out to them a week before. If I don't hear from them by that a week, like I'll give them 3 to 4 days to respond to my email. And then if I don't hear a response at that point, then I go ahead and start making phone calls. Advancing is just making sure, hey, what time do I need to load in? I have a Google question sheet, and that's what I send to everyone I advance with. And so they can go through and just answer all the questions, and it's all there for me, nice and easy. And they'll tell me if there's a green room, if we have hotel rooms, all that kind of stuff. Where are those hotel rooms located? Do I have hands? All those fun stuff.
Have you gotten super frustrated yet? Because I know that Elisa wants to pull her hair out when she's advancing. She does all the advancing for Sunny. She's Sunny's tour manager. That being said, she wants to pull her hair out like every week. She, when we're on the phone, she's like, dude, I cannot get a fucking call back from X place, and she's like, how do they're going to get mad at us when we don't know where we're supposed to be, or like when we're supposed to be there. But have you gotten down to that part of it yet, or have you been pretty lucky so far to deal with folks that are actually like being pretty responsive to you?
I've only had one venue where it was really hard to get in contact, and the only thing I knew driving up to the venue was that load in was at between 4:30 and 5, and that's it. I didn't really get told anything else. But every other venue I've ever worked at has been amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like sometimes as long as you have like a load in or a showtime or something, you can kind of play it backwards, and you can just kind of fill in the rest throughout the day. But it's just kind of like, I've seen the mad scramble that like TMs have to go through after load in, because like they just didn't get any info. And then like we'll get to the venue and then at least if like scrambling or something. And which I've seen other people do this too, where it's like they're trying to figure out what the details are, and they finally see the person that they're supposed to be talking to the whole entire time, and then they're like, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't get back to you, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, I needed to know this info. Like, the guys are hungry, the band's hungry, we didn't know if you guys had food or not, we didn't know, we didn't check in the hotel because we didn't know if you guys were providing hotels. So I imagine, I don't know, dude, it just seems like to me like tour managers really kind of get thrown to the wolves, and it feels like you have to have a really, really decent amount of patience with people just to in order to like do this job. So
for sure.
So couple questions that I kind of were writing down here. Where do you guys have bus call, if you don't mind me asking? Is it like a super far?
It's in Austin.
Your bus call?
It's in Austin. So yeah, I'm out in Denton. I'm in Aubrey. That's where CH is located at. Yeah, which is funny. It's very comical. It's when we flipped full circle because when I worked for Tristan, our van call was in Denton.
Oh, nice.
So, and I lived in Austin at the time. I lived in Austin at the time, and so then now I moved here, and then our van calls out in Denton or is in Austin. So now I'm flipping backwards, but I got family out in Austin, so I don't mind driving.
I imagine that the bus
at all.
Sorry if I'm talking over you at all. I can't see it, so I'm just kind of having a conversation with God right now. I'm just like, talking to this invisible person. But I imagine the bus call like being that far away. As a TM, I think it'd be nice because, well, maybe not for you because you're the one paying for gas and the oil changes and stuff. But for me, like personally, when we get done with a weekend, especially after you have kids, I don't know if you have kids or not, but after you have kids, you like really appreciate. There you are. You really.
Yeah, we'll see if this one works.
Yeah, no, I can see it. Yeah, you're good. You start to appreciate the silent drives like at the end of like a long weekend, so when we're driving back there's a stretch between which I'm sure you know what stretch I'm talking about, between Pryor, Oklahoma, where we're at, and Melissa, because we typically stop at the Buc-ee's right outside of McKinney every single on the way back home, so there's that stretch where that's typically our last stop. We'll fill up, everybody will get whatever. Autumn will pass out, which she passes out as soon as we hit the pavement every weekend. But it doesn't matter where we're at. And then Mikey, our guitarist, will usually like be on his phone, and or whoever else is with us. Merch guys usually pass out, and so I have that 208 miles or exactly whatever it is to just sometimes it's just silent, man, and I just absolutely love it. And I'm just like, so I don't know if you're like a big listen to music while you drive or podcast kind of person or whatever, but that's like my time of the week typically, like on the road, is just like to kind of have that me time. I know that sounds really weird, but like that, do you like to drive, I guess is what I'm trying to get at? Like,
yes, I don't mind driving at all. It's very therapeutic for me. Like I can just reset my whole self.
You get the kind of
I'll stop and get myself a coffee and I'll just sip on it the whole way and drive all the way home.
Yeah, that's like my Zen mode, is just like, give me like when we leave in the mornings, like on Friday mornings or Thursday mornings, like I'm like, give me like a podcast and like this is coffee, this is like 24 ounces of coffee, and just I'll fill this thing up, and dude, I'm just good to go. Like, just don't even talk to me. I'm just like I'm in the zone. It's kind of like my Zen. Yeah, so I didn't know if you like the drive down there or if it's just kind of annoying. I know some people are like, yeah, our bus calls in Georgetown and they live in like, Granbury or something, and they're like, it is what it is, but
yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, I don't mind driving at all. I think you kind of have to love driving, being in this industry, because
you have to be able to stand it at least.
Yeah, yeah. It's a big part of what we do. So,
have you ever had to go to bus call in Austin and then they end up driving north and you're like, I just came from here?
Not with Bart, but that happened when I was with Tristan a couple of times. But like in Austin, where I used to live, there's a venue, Mavericks, at Dance Hall in Pflugerville. And we played there one night, and I literally like my house is a mile away from there, and I had to drive to bus call, and then we drove right back there. It was pretty comical.
Yeah. Well, the thing about okay, first of all, are you guys is Bart is he in a Sprinter, or is he like out on an actual bus, or like what are you guys traveling in right now?
We're in a Sprinter.
Okay, cool. That kind of seems like
Yeah.
the new thing to do. We had on Pablo the other day, which he's a guitarist for the motor cars, and he's like, man, we just went to a Sprinter like a couple years ago or something, and it's just so much more efficient, and like you'd be surprised at how much room there actually is in like one of those things, I don't know if you guys have like bunks or whatever, but
we do. We have a couple in the back, and then we got 2 rows of seats, and then the 2 pilot seats in the front.
How many people travel with you guys on the road? It's you, 4
There's
people?
just 5 of us.
Okay,
four of them, and then me.
How many bunks do you guys have do you guys have a junk bunk, or is there exactly 5 bunks in the Sprinter?
I want to say there's either 4 or 6. I don't remember if there's one on the bottom. I'm I don't ever go in the bunks. I'm always on the seats,
How do you go about all the advancement? So how do you find out about the shows? Like, do you get CC'd on the emails, or do you just keep up with Bart's bands in town, or Songkick, or Facebook events, or like how does that go for you? Like, how do you know what shows that you need to advance for?
No, for sure. I'm logged into our True Grit, so I can see all of that stuff there. And then I'll kind of just comb through. I try to comb through once a week just to see if anything else has been added, and I'll go ahead and add that to our Master Tour.
Oh, you guys use Master Tour, man?
Yeah, we use Master Tour.
Everybody says that Master Tour is the best, but we have the band app, the BAND app, like the green one, and it's free. So, but everybody's like, man, Master Tour is just next level. But I guess it costs like, I don't know how much it costs a month, but
there's a specific subscription. Master Tour, I like it. It's really user friendly. It's pretty easy to use, and all of that. I've used Band before too. It's the same thing. All of it gets the job done. It's really just preference by person, right?
Yeah. Some people use like just Google calendars. Also, I think Kyle said that Bree and them use a Google calendar, and I'm like, whatever works, like, yeah. So, so explain to me your definition of an itinerary or day sheet, or like typically what does the life of Ashleigh look like on the road with Bart?
Yeah, for sure. So whenever, I don't know, my rule of thumb, and I always do this for driving, I'll always add, and I'm sure that everyone does this, I'll always add time. Like if we need to be there at like 4:30 and we need to leave at 10 a.m., then I'm going to tell everyone we got to leave at 9:30. Because, there's always something that's going to happen. Even if I'm planning for stops or whatever, something's going to happen. You got to kind of leave a little bit early. So I always try to make sure that I have enough time, not too much, but about a 30-minute buffer between when we actually have to be there for load-in, to give us time to, just in case we do have to stop somewhere or something happens. So we always plan for that. We'll leave the venue, or we'll leave the hotel in the morning and drive to the next venue. We'll get there at load-in. I'll usually go in and make contact with whoever I need to. And then I usually set up merch, and then normally we'll go back to the hotel and just kind of chill out until it's time for the show. And then once the show's done, I'll go do merch again, and then we'll load out and head back to the hotel. And then we'll do it all again the next day.
Do it all again.
So pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty simple. But it's not like you're doing the same thing every day though, because no day is the same on the road at all.
Yeah. The thing about our line of work, like on paper, like literally on paper, it like looks the same, but it's so different, dude. It's just, there's different people every day, there's different food every day, there's different, like, attitudes every day.
Yeah.
I wanted to take a quick second to plug our Patreon. So I've had a few people over the last few months kind of reach out and ask how they can support this podcast, and because they've been listening to all the episodes and they've gained a ton of knowledge on all the guests we've had on this podcast and just the things we've been talking about, and they want the podcast to keep going. Well, first of all, guys, this podcast isn't going to go anywhere. We're going to keep doing it no matter what. We just love doing it, and we love having conversations with each other and with other guests that we're having. We gain a ton of knowledge ourselves as it is. But if you feel like supporting the podcast, which we would highly, highly appreciate, you don't have to, but if you feel so inclined, there is a link down below for our Patreon. It is Raglan's Patreon, but all of the finances from things like this podcast and Patreon and streaming and all that stuff kind of get dumped into the same bucket, so it all goes to the same place. So by supporting Raglan on Patreon, you are by default supporting this podcast. So if you guys feel so inclined, check out the link below. And on that note, I'm sure you guys have noticed over the last 4 or 5 episodes, we've started to have some sponsors on the podcast. That's super cool because this podcast has been growing at a very, very fast rate, which we are extremely stoked about. But if you guys are interested in being a sponsor on this podcast, feel free to reach out to me or Lisa if you guys know us personally, or check out our emails down below in the description. You guys can contact us there. And without any further ado, let's get back into it, guys. I always ask everybody their pet peeves because secretly people that listen to this podcast, whether it be other up and coming musicians or, industry folks or whoever, I want them to secretly think, oh shit, that's me. Like that, I do that. I need to stop doing that, And I like to hear it because I like to always hear other people's point of views. So if you have any pet peeves, I would really love to hear them. And it could be with concert goers. It could be with people at the venue. It could be with people in the band. And we don't have to name any names at all, but
Yeah.
kind of just curious. And I might have to dig for it a little. If you can't, everybody always says they don't have pet peeves, but then I kind of start asking questions and they're like, you know what? Man, fuck this person because this
really
one
drives
time.
me nuts. No.
So yeah, what do you have any pet peeves off the top of your head?
So I guess I've worked so many different jobs within the industry, so I've kind of seen different things. Running merch, a pet peeve is like a fan will come up and be like, well, I know I can buy this shirt for $3. So why do you have it for this much? And I guess it's hard to explain to someone, and especially when they don't want to hear it, maybe is like, this money helps us get down the road, right? Like once we hit that profit off of all the merch, like that money is going to help pay for way more things. And that makes me, I don't know. That's just like, if you have a problem with it, like you don't have to buy it. Like I have way more people that will purchase. So that's something that really frustrates me because I guess,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I guess you just like, they don't understand like the profits of it just because, but then if you were to explain it to them like, hey, like, do you own a business? Like, or when you go eat out at this restaurant, like you're not paying what they paid for the food. Mm-hmm. Like they're making a profit off of it. Everyone has to make a profit off of things. Yeah. And with
merch, it's like, I think people think that because the standard, I don't know what you guys charge, but the standard t-shirt price nowadays is roughly $30, give or take a little bit, so, people think that, Bart or Raglan or Sonny or, Bree or anybody, we're just taking that $30 and just putting that shit in our bank account or our piggy bank or our pocket. And they think that like, we're just, what they don't understand, that shirt could cost anywhere between $9 to $15, depending on the design. And then it's like, I don't know. I would say most bands have a merch account that feeds into itself and they don't spend money out of there unless they have to. I don't know how you guys do it, but we try to just stock up our merch money. And if we need to pay for our record promoter or distribution for CD Baby, if we had a bad weekend and we need to pay the band because we didn't get very much for an opening act, or if we need to fill up a tank or buy a hotel room, that's where it's literally helping us. We're not just taking that money and just stashing it away, in our pocket.
I'm not going to use that money to go to Mexico for the
exactly.
week.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, yeah, no, Yeah, it's because I think that people don't realize, when they say support small business, quote unquote, it's like a band is a small business. Well, some bands are bigger businesses, but bands are, we're businesses.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, where Bart's not going out there just for free and going out there just because he likes to see people dance. I mean, I'm sure he does, but like, who's paying Bart's bills? Like, so. Yeah. On that note, have you had to deal with any venue merch cuts yet, whether it be with Holly, Tristan, Bart? Yeah, how do you feel about that?
I have some strong opinions on that. I mean,
this is the place. Listen, this is the place for for strong opinions. Give me them.
I mean, I feel like everyone else feels. I mean, I think there's a time and a place for venue cuts for merch. If you, as a venue or as a festival, are going to load in my merch for me, if you're going to sit there and count it in with me, if you're going to sell it for me, and then you're going to pack it up and then help me load it out, I think that that's completely valid, right? But if you're charging me 5% of soft and 10% of hard, which is what I've had.
Explain that real quick for the people that don't know what's between soft and hard. No, for
sure. So soft goods are like shirts, hats, anything that's like soft, right? And then the hard is going to be like the CDs and all of that kind of stuff. And they'll take 25% of the amount you're making off of that of soft goods, and then 10% of hard. So at the end of the night, they'll come and ask you for your report, and they'll ask you to how much did you make off of hard, and you'll add it all together, and then they'll multiply it by 10%, and that's how much you have to pay them out. And same thing with soft. And I think there's a time and a place for it, but I don't think that when I'm the one that's loading it in, I'm the one that's ordering all the merch, or the band's the one that's ordering all the merch, and they're loading it all in, and they're tracking inventory, and you're charging us this. Usually it's about 10 and 5 or 15 and 10. It depends. Usually soft is more than hard goods. But there's always two different percentages, and they take that cut, and it's for what? To have my table to have a table out for me, we're doing most of the work for it. And I guess the other side of the argument that everyone always makes is, well, we should just ask them for a cut of the bar deal, right?
Which is actually a very good argument. That's actually a very good argument, because it's
very good argument.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
I just think there's a time and a place for it. If you're going to sit here and you're going to have people who sell for me, if you're going to sit and you're going to have because there are venues like that, and there's festivals like that. The festival will sell for you. They'll load it in. They'll do all that stuff for you. All you have to do is just count it in and sit there and count it in with them and count it out with them. I think it's feasible to take a cut for that, because they're having to pay the people to do that. And I understand that. But when me as a merch manager, or any merch manager, is still selling the merch for the band, and then you're still taking that cut away from my business, essentially, I don't think that they would like it if it was the opposite way,
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things that, I feel like people didn't even know. There's been a lot of artists recently, we haven't been as public about it because, we've been doing a lot of support shows, and you can actually get away with it as a support act. But, Sonny's been pretty adamant about it. I know BJ from American Aquarium has been pretty adamant about it. And there's been a lot of people recently that have been like, hey, here's what's fucked up. And then so many people in the comment sections, it never fails to blow my mind and say, I had no idea about this
merch.
And and it's fucking crazy, man. It's so but I think that, maybe I'm being naive, maybe I don't know, but I think that this is one of those things that actually is probably going to see a lot of change a lot quicker in the industry.
I hope
maybe
so.
I'm wrong.
I think if more people continue to stand up, like you were talking about BJ, he has that new koozie. I don't know if you saw it.
It says, fuck your merch cuts. Yeah, that's badass. Yeah.
That's badass. Yeah. Like he has all that new stuff. And I mean, I think him, like himself is just, he's opening up so many people's eyes to it in such a public like way. And I hope that it will change a lot. I think that there's other ways we can go about this. I don't even think that this is needed, because this is a part of my band. Like, this is a part of traveling with me. It's not like it's just something extra, right? Because like merch is a part of your band. It's a part of the way that we run as a band. It's literally, if you think about it, it's the same as, okay, I'm going to show up here. I have my monitor rig, I have this, and I have my merch. Like that is a part of my band, It's not something that I'm just bringing out for fun. But I think that there is a lot of change that needs to happen, and I think it is going to happen sooner than later. Yeah,
it seems like one of those things that the venues are really starting to waive the cuts, especially with the people that are being a lot more adamant about it, because it's just like they don't want to, when the venue's kind of being put in the spotlight, about it, like they're kind of, well, do we want people to, hate on us or not come to our concerts? I think that they realize that they're going to lose a lot more revenue through ticket sales because people are realizing that like a certain theater or club or something is like taking those cuts. So I don't know. Again, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too optimistic. I don't know, whatever, or naive, but I think that that's one of those things in the industry that's really going to change a lot quicker than
I hope so.
Other things.
Yeah.
It's not even it's, on a scale, it's kind of politics, but at the end of it's music business politics. It's more of a niche, category of politics, but it's not as political as other things in the industry. And I think that folks are all on the side of like, this is just morally fucked up. I think every concert goer is in agreement that, when you go out there and you look at like the crowd, you're like, oh, these people might be like a liberal, or these people might be conservative, or, you have a big melting pot of people. But I think that every person standing out there is like, wait a minute, I'm watching Bart or American Aquarium or Sunny, and like I want to go buy their merch, and like it's not going to them. Like, what the fuck? I think every single person out there is like, what the fuck? This is messed up. So yeah, I think it's one of those things that is going to affect the venue come sooner or later. Very, very sooner, I think, because a lot more people are being, vocal.
Yeah, because if you even think about it, off of a single shirt, we're only making a X amount percentage of profit anyways, right? The entire amount of the shirt, we're not making a profit off of all of it. We have to make back what we paid for the shirt in the first place. And so when they're taking 15% of that, like, I think that's something that people don't really think about either, because they're like, oh, well, they're only taking 15%, but they're taking the 15% of the profit that we're making. They're not even taking they're not taking just 15%. They're taking 50% of our profit, because all of what we make every night's not our profit. Right. We're making back what we paid for the merch in the first place.
Well, and I don't think that people realize also like the part of that money. So when bands like Bart and Raglan and Sunny and American Aquarium all hire merch people or tour managers or people to help, like we need that merch to help pay for making up the margin between like what we're giving this person to come out on the road with us, if that makes sense. Like we need, if you're out there with Bart, like he's hoping that you help him sell enough merch to make it, I hope this doesn't come across offensive, I mean this in the nicest way, make it worth his while to like have a merch person out there, so and,
and that's the way that the industry works.
So
that's exactly how it goes.
Well, do you have any other pet peeves that you want to dig into, whether it be like something to do with an opening band or a venue or something? And then I got some other stuff I want to dive into. Is there anything else that crosses your mind?
Dude, when you go see a band play and then all you're doing is just screaming for like just the fans that like are just, oh, they only want to hear one song. They only want to hear this song. Or
are you saying people don't want to listen to Bart play "Wear My Ring" for 90 minutes? Is that what you're saying? Like they just want to, they just want to hear that.
I've been to other shows too, where like just fans will come up and they'll scream the one song that they want to hear for like 30 minutes. And it's so disrespectful. But I mean, I get that, you know?
Yeah.
I guess like you're going to come and you're going to want to hear what you're going to want to hear. But just enjoy the show, like enjoy, like watch everything that's there. But that's just for me from a standpoint. Like I'm a sucker for production. I'll go and watch like big artists and I'll go get nosebleed seats so I can literally just watch their production from high above. Like I'm a sucker for production, but you know, just sit there and enjoy it. You know, I've seen that with like hundreds of artists, you know, like people just go there and they'll just be screaming one song over and over again. And you're like, it's probably coming. Just give it.
They're not going to not play their biggest song.
Yeah.
Just like and once you hear that one song, you might leave. And I know that this band has a ton of really good songs, but I think that the alcohol sales at every damn Quail show would go way down if they played Fool's Gold, their first song. You know what I mean? Because people would be like, I just heard the song. You know, you know, people are like waiting to hear that song. Like, well, I guess I'm going to get another beer, you know? So, but no, for the record, Wear My Ring is, I mean, obviously it's like in the top 10 staple songs of Texas music of all time, I would say. You know what I mean? It's fucking up there. Dude. When you see Bart again, tell him I said A Little Bit of Luck is the best Bart Crow song. Does he still play that on his set list? A Little Bit of Luck? We haven't lately. Okay, that's a good one.
I'll talk to him about getting
I don't want to be that guy, but listen, I want to hear that song. So, okay, so I want to pick your brain about being a female in the industry, and we have about 20 or 30 more minutes on this, so I'm going to try to not put ourselves in a bind. So I'm going to try to without getting crazy into, you know what, we may just go way down this rabbit hole, who knows. So as a female in the industry, do you feel like as a TM or a merch person that people may or may not give you the respect that you've seen get given to other guys in your position?
Are you talking from the outside perspective or from the inside perspective?
Both. Like, let's say, because I know that Elisa personally deals with like venue owners or talent buyers or, you know, fill in the blank, that are just like, hey, we'd rather just deal with the artist, or we'd rather just, you know, not deal with, I don't know. As a female that's trying to get answers for an advancement or trying to get something done, you know, if you were a guy, I feel like it would just come across as you just doing your job. But I feel like sometimes as a girl, it doesn't come across that way. It comes across as you just like being mean, or like, hey, I need this, you know, or whatever. I don't know. Fill me in on your thoughts and feelings on that whole entire thing. So I don't want to put too many words in your mouth, but yeah, just
no. Yeah. I've never, like, from what you were just speaking of, I've never had an issue with any like thing like that. I've never had anyone like advancing shows or anything. I've never had someone not give me answers or be like short with me or anything like that. I've never felt it anything like that, or any like, oh, it's because you're a girl, I don't want to give you any information. I've never had to deal with anything like that yet. That's not saying that it may not happen, because I'm sure.
Well, good. You know what? For the record, I hope it doesn't happen to you. So it's just,
I'm sure. I mean, man, I'm only 4 months in to like advancing shows. So, you know, but I've had I guess on the opposite side of the spectrum, I've been told, like, for fill-in gigs or stuff like that, I've been told no because I'm a girl.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've had to deal with that a lot. Which, hey, to everyone, each their own. To each
Are
their
you
own.
allowed
Like,
to elaborate on that without giving it like any names? Like, what do you, like, they denied you like the job because you were a girl? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I've been told that straight up to my face. And again, hey, to each their own. Like, if you don't want a girl to work for you, like, hey, that's fine. That's not a big deal. But I do feel like I have to work harder for gigs, whether that's a filling gig. And like I said before, I am so grateful for Bart, and him and I just sat down and had an hour-long conversation about this a couple of days ago about how like just trying to give females more opportunities in the
That's
industry.
awesome. Hell yeah.
It is way harder. I mean, some bands are amazing and I'll fill in, and I mean, hey, all I want to do is be here and work, you know? I want to go in, I'll do my job, I'll sell my merch, I'll talk to your fans about you for hours. Like they'll come and keep coming back and talking to me about, about the band, where are they from, all this kind of stuff, you know? And I've had some great opportunities. I just was with, do you know who the Red Clay Strays are?
Yes. I just discovered them 6 months ago, and I don't know how long they've been on the grind, but like I'm a genuine fan of their music.
They're so good. I was just with them last week. I did merch. They were opening for El King in Dallas and Austin.
Yeah, they came, well, our neck of the woods. I think that tour came up to Canes. Yeah.
That last day. Yeah. But I was with them. Like, I've seen some pretty cool places, but on the other side of this, like the other side of it, I've been told like, oh, we don't want a girl. Like, even if someone were to tell them everything about me and not even say like if I was a girl or a guy, and then they're like, oh, hey, okay, I'll give you her number. And they're like, oh, we just don't want a girl, you know? And like I said, to each their own. Everyone has their own opinion. Everyone runs their thing differently. But that's the only thing that I've ever had to deal with whenever I was trying to get gigs, was that I would just be told no, because they just didn't understand why a girl would want to be on the road or why a girl would want to do that. They just didn't want that, which is fine.
Why would you want a job, Ashleigh? You're a girl. Why would you?
But I mean, dude, I love what I do, and like no matter who I work for, I will like I bust my butt. Yeah. I love it. I love selling merch. I'll sit there and talk to your fans about you, like all that kind of stuff, and I love running. Like, just started running monitors. Love doing that.
That's badass, man. That's awesome that you are like wanting to learn more about the production side. Because listen, dude, like I know about production because I have to. I don't want to. Like, do not ask me to run sound for anybody for any reason. Please do not. So that's awesome. That's cool. Yeah.
I mean, I can run XLRs. I can set a stage. I can do all that stuff.
Wait, are you telling me that you're a girl and you know what an XLR is? Is that what you're saying right now?
Yeah.
Listen, that's great. That's too much. Okay. That's good. That's awesome.
But you know, like it's something that I'm so passionate about. I love doing it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And as like from being a female perspective, that's the only thing so far. I've only been touring for a year and a half. And that's the only thing that I've had to deal with, is just being told no or being turned down for gigs, no matter how qualified or how much experience I have, just because they don't want a girl. And I don't know, for me too, like, I don't care if I have like a bathroom to do my makeup in. Like, I'll just throw on mascara in I'll go into the bathroom of the bar and throw on mascara before the show, and I'll get changed in the bathroom stall. Like, I don't care. I've changed in the Love's bathrooms before. Like, that doesn't bother me. Like, I don't care, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess there's just this stigma still of like, we don't want a girl. We don't want to have a girl. And that's like the hardest thing that I've had to deal with so far.
Yeah. Well, that's a bummer, man. I hate to hear that. Well, and because being in a band that we are female driven, like Elisa and Autumn and our record promoters and our photographer and like everybody else is a girl. And I'm a firm believer that girls are way more organized than us guys are. Like, the reason that this band is even slightly organized is because like women keep our shit together. 100%.
Huh?
We would not be able to operate like on what we're doing. Yeah, if it weren't for y'all women, I think that like our shit would not be together. In my opinion, I think I'm a firm believer that behind like every guy there is a woman that is that supports him and holds him accountable. That's where I'm at on the whole thing. So, yeah.
No, and then I guess on like the opposite side of that, the only thing I've ever had dealt with, and this happened more when I first started like working in the industry, and I know so many photographers, and the same thing happens. They'll ask who you're with in the band. Who are you with in the band? Like I'm not talented enough to be here professionally. Like I have to be with someone to be able to be
I'm
here.
a girl. Oh, so I can't be on the payroll. Got it. I'm
it's just like, come on, dude. Like I'm not here with anybody. I'm just working. Oh, really? And then they're shocked, and you're like, I'm just here to work. Like I'm here just like everybody else that's getting in this van at the end of the night. I'm here to work, load the trailer, and go back to the hotel and get some sleep before our show tomorrow. Like that's all I'm trying to do, And those are the only two things like being a female that I've had to deal with.
Well, I'm glad you haven't had to deal with like a ton of it yet, and genuinely hope that you don't have to. And it's funny, like you said, that Autumn, back in the early days, especially whenever we were playing like acoustic duo gigs, like those 3-hour gigs and stuff, we'd have to carry in our own PA. And multiple times people would be like, oh, what time is your husband playing? Or what time is your boyfriend playing? Or one time she even got like it's so nice that you're helping him carry in his equipment. And she's like, yep, that's me. I'm just nice.
Oh my! And then like 10 minutes later, they'll see her on stage.
Then
and
she gets up on stage. Yeah, yeah. No, it's funny. And you know what? To people's credit, at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of folks mean it in a mean way. Doesn't help a ton. I think that they mean most things. I think at the end of the day, I think most people are good people, and I think that they but their unconscious thoughts come out sometimes, like before it processes in their brain.
And their brain.
It goes from straight thought, like pre-thought to mouth, and it just it just comes out.
And I mean, we're dealing with people who've been drinking all the time. Like they're out at the bar drinking, and it's Thursday night or Friday night, and they had a shitty week at work, and they're just trying to forget about their week, and so everything is just like word vomit just comes out of their mouth, and no one means harm of it. I mean, it makes me laugh. I'm honestly like, okay, yeah.
Don't you love Go ahead. Sorry.
Sometimes my response will be like, oh, it depends on what night it is. Like I'll give them smart comments back sometimes, but it's a lot of fun, right? Like they don't mean anything of it. They don't know any better.
Do you deal with, and I ask you this because, you've had, you said a year or more, more experience with the merch side of stuff. Do you have any, going back to the pet peeve things, do you have any pet peeves about people at the merch table after the show? Like whether it be drunk people or pissed off people, or any guys ever try to hit on you while you're like running merch, or like, is there any like crazy stories that you have from like the merch table or pet peeves about that whole entire thing?
No, I like it. Like, I don't mind having the crowd around, because the crowd around at the end of the night, like the more I can get people to buy stuff, right? Like the more I can entice them to purchase, and we'll make more money. So I'm totally cool with that. I've never had anyone hit on me behind the merch booth, but a couple weeks ago we played at Hoots Pub out in Amarillo. It was a sold out show, so like
I saw that.
Completely packed. And I was standing side stage, just like making sure everything was running. Normally I'll stand side stage the first like 1 to 3 songs depending on the night to make sure everything's running smooth, and then I'll run back and do merch, but I'll have my ears on, so if they need something I can get back to side stage.
With your ears, can you tap into each person's in-ear, or do you hear the front of house?
I have my own mix right now.
Okay.
I haven't really played around with anything else. I have my own mix, and it's mostly just the talkback mic, so I can hear all of them. And
explain I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off. Sorry. Explain what a talkback mic is for anybody that doesn't know, like what a talkback mic is.
So whenever you're at a show and you see like the band turn around, or even the drummer talking into the mic and you can't hear them over the front of house, that's the talkback mic, and only people that can hear that are the people with the packs on. And so everyone on stage, and then maybe whoever's running monitors, or their front of house sound guy, or all that kind of stuff. And it's just a way for us to communicate without everybody else in the entire audience to hear what we're saying and what
it's
we're
like
needing.
You're telling secrets while the show is going on. Yeah, it's pretty sneaky. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. But we were at and there was this guy, and he'd been drinking, like he was completely plastered, but he was trying to like ask for my phone number while I'm side stage, like trying to work, and like he's trying to like lean over the stage and like hold his phone. Yeah, that Hoots Pub, asking me for my phone number during like it was like our second song of the night, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it's gonna be a night tonight. Tonight's gonna be a fun one. Yeah. That's like the only thing that I've ever had like that was just like, are you serious? Like this is hilarious happening.
Dude,
and everyone on stage was just laughing because they all saw it happening too. Yeah. All the guys in the band, they were just laughing, and I was like, oh my god.
See him take the big L. Wait, did you give him your number? That's the question.
Never.
I'm just kidding with you. Well, I love Hoots because the sound guy there is this old guy that
yes
he's the nicest guy though. Fuck, he's the nice guy, and he gives everybody that walks away, all the musicians, a live demo recording of like how they sounded there, and on the big screen behind you. Sometimes I'm like, where did this motherfucker find this picture? That's from like 2018. You know, he'll find just like random logos and pictures of like the bands playing, and he puts them behind on the stage. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we really need to like do like
tangent, but he played in my uncle's band like a long time ago. Really? Yeah, they toured together. So like I mean, yeah, like him and I will always sit down and talk forever. But
what's his name? What's his name?
Richard.
Because he is a very cool guy.
Yeah, he used to tour with my uncle in their band, the Clyde Log Band. You can find their music on YouTube.
All right.
But yeah, they used to tour forever ago. And yeah, he's done that forever. He's always done that.
That's cool.
I love going there because of him.
So I've got two more questions for you that I've been kind of writing down. Well, I got advice for upcoming artists, and that can be anything. You know, it can be a super broad question, but before I ask that, I have another question, which is, so who are some of your favorite artists in the Texas music scene? Which, when I say Texas music scene, at this point, we mean Texas and all the states that border Texas, and all the bands outside of those states that sound like Texas bands. You know, who are some of your favorite? And it can be big, small, whatever. And also, do you have any shout outs for like any other upcoming artists that you think could use a shout out? So yeah. So I mean, I'm a big right now. I've been jamming Cole Barnhill. I've been jamming him a lot. I've been jamming Carson Jeffrey. Can't ever go wrong with Carson Jeffrey. Yeah,
that kid. Yeah, Carson Jeffrey's really good. Holly Beth all the time. Gracie York. You know, who did I just discover? I've been listening to.
Sorry to put you under pressure, and if you leave anybody out, you're gonna be like, "Fuck, man, I should have given." That.
Yeah, like dang it, come on.
So disclaimer: Ashleigh loves everybody.
I do. I love everybody. I love everybody. Gio, he just won New Artist of the Year for iHeartRadio. Yeah. That's huge. Crazy. That was amazing. And then Cody Johnson won too. So all of them, like all those Texas boys last night were on the big stage. That's amazing.
Yeah, and you know what? People get mad at that because they they'll be like, oh man, they sold out and they went mainstream. But it's funny if you go look at Geo or Cody or Co or Parker or Turnpike, whatever, any of these guys that are getting not even national attention, but like just worldwide attention. You go look on Spotify and the related artists are bands that we tour with, you know, that Bart tours with, that Raglan tours with, you know, it's like, this is a win for Texas music. And I don't think that people realize that, you know? So anyway, just my thoughts personally, you know, so, cause I saw some people that were like, oh man, they sold out, you know, I saw in the comments of some of their stuff and I was like, get over yourself, man. Like this is,
you don't know what that is.
Right, right. You don't even know like how good it probably feels to just, you know, be at that level and finally make some money for for a chance, you know, for a change of, because when you're, anyway, I don't want to get down that rabbit hole, but anyway, so any other bands you want to shout out, artists, bands?
Braxton Keith. I don't know if you listen to Braxton Keith, but that kid can sing. He's one of those that band is one of my favorite people. Those are like all my brothers, because when we toured with Tristan, he would open up for us all the time. And I've been friends with Braxton since 2020 when he was just playing acoustics by himself. Yeah. And so I've really seen him grow and he's becoming huge.
For Autumn was in the songwriting competition with him back in like 2019 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
You know, in Stephenville, and it was like, man, this kid is fucking awesome. So Adriana, is she like his tour manager or his merch
photographer?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, she's badass too. Yeah.
She is badass.
Yeah. she's a badass. Like bad period ass period.
Yeah.
We love her.
Yes,
Do you have any advice for upcoming artists? And again, this can be advice for artists in regards to travel, making music, you know, at a venue, whatever. Just super broad question, but just feel free to throw out any form of advice that you got.
I mean, when you're first starting out, I think the biggest thing, like, especially when you're gigging so hard, just making those connections with those venues. Like, you always want to make that positive connection with that venue, because when you're first starting out, that's not the only time you're ever going to play there. You're going to play there again and again and again. So making sure you have an amazing experience and an amazing like rapport, right, with the venue. So to make sure that, because that kind of stuff spreads like wildfire, because you don't know like, oh, this venue owner or this person that booked me here also books at this like Green Hall or also books here. And so if you have a very like poor experience or something happens or whatever, you know, you want to make sure that you have you put your best face or best foot forward, so that way you can have all these other opportunities. And that goes with anybody in your band too, right? Because everybody that's in your band is representing you. So if you have someone in your band too that maybe put a bad taste in someone's mouth, that could also, right, put a damper on getting.
And they will also spread the negativity into the rest of your band. I've seen it happen. Like, you know, there's just one bad guy that hops on board, and then it's just like after like a week or a month or whatever, everybody in the band has like a fucking bad attitude. So no, I agree 100%. No, just having a good attitude is great, because I know that, you know, we talked about both of these venues, but you know, the guy that books at Hoots is also the guy that books at Granbury Live, or not Granbury Live, Bob's in Granbury, you know? And so it's like,
I don't know if he still does.
So, and it's a big state. It's a big music scene, but everybody knows everybody, you know what I mean? And so, and it's like bad news travels super quick. So it'd be nice. You know, we say all the time on this thing, it's like, it's 80% about being nice and who you know. It's really like 20% talent. The majority of it's just being a good hang and just being a good.
Yes. Yeah. You got to be a good hang. For sure.
So, but I appreciate you doing this. And sorry about all the sound stuff.